The wealthy businessman had no idea anyone was watching as he drove his luxury sedan deep into the forest at midnight, the moonlight catching on his gold watch as he heaved the heavy briefcase into the darkness. Tyrell, the janitor's 12-year-old son who cleaned the offices after school to help his struggling father, had stayed late that night and followed his instincts when he saw Mr. Harrington acting strangely. Now he stood frozen behind an ancient oak, heart pounding in his chest, as he witnessed something he was never meant to see. The briefcase had landed with a peculiar metallic thud, and even in the dim light, Tyrell could see something leaking from its edges, something that looked disturbingly like blood. What secret was hidden in that briefcase that a man worth millions would risk everything to bury in the dead of night? If you love stories of justice and courage, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss what happens next in this extraordinary tale. Tyrell Johnson's hands trembled as he crept back through the darkened woods toward the office building. The image of Mr. Harrington, the man whose name adorned the sleek tower where his father mopped floors, tossing that briefcase, would not leave his mind. At 12 years old, Tyrell already understood more about the world's harsh realities than most adults would want a child to know. "You okay, son?" Marcus Johnson's deep voice startled Tyrell as he slipped through the service entrance. His father stood by the cleaning cart, his worn hands wrapped around a mop handle, concern etching lines around his eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine, Dad. Just tired." The lie tasted bitter on Tyrell's tongue. Since his mother's passing 3 years ago, he and his father rarely kept secrets from each other. Marcus studied his son's face. "Well, we're almost done here. Just need to finish the executive floor bathrooms." Tyrell nodded, following his father into the elevator. Their reflections stared back at them. Marcus, in his gray janitor's uniform, shoulders slightly stooped from years of labor, but head held high with dignity, and Tyrell, tall for his age with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. The Johnson household was modest, a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where sirens often served as nighttime lullabies. But inside, Marcus had created a sanctuary of learning. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with volumes bought from thrift stores and library sales. Marcus had always told Tyrell, "They can take away our opportunities, but they can't take away our knowledge." At school, Tyrell's intelligence set him apart. His teachers marveled at his aptitude for mathematics and science, encouraging him to apply for scholarships to private high schools in a few years. But Tyrell knew the reality. Even with a scholarship, there would be expenses beyond their means. That's why he had started helping his father clean offices 6 months ago. The building manager had looked the other way, pretending not to notice. The child working after hours, the extra $30 a night, helped with groceries and the ever-increasing pile of medical bills from his mother's final illness. Later that night, as Marcus dozed in front of their small television, Tyrell sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by homework. But instead of focusing on algebra equations, his mind kept returning to the forest scene. He had heard rumors about Harrington Enterprises, whispers among the cleaning staff about missing funds and unhappy investors. Last week, he had overheard 2 executives arguing behind a closed door, one voice distinctly belonging to Mr. Harrington, the other to his business partner, Mr. Gaines. "What are you still doing up?" Marcus stood in the doorway, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "Just finishing homework," Tyrell replied, quickly flipping back to his math textbook. Marcus sat across from his son. "You know, your mother would be so proud of you." His eyes glistened in the dim kitchen light. "Every day I see more of her in you, her smarts, her determination, her heart." Tyrell swallowed hard. "I miss her, Dad." "Me too, son. Every single day." Marcus reached across the table, his calloused hand covering Tyrell's. "But we keep going, right? We keep doing what's right, no matter how hard it gets." Tyrell nodded, the weight of what he'd witnessed pressing against his chest. What was the right thing to do when you saw someone like Richard Harrington, a man with power, money, and influence, possibly committing a crime Would anyone even believe the son of a janitor? Dad, Terrell began hesitantly, if you knew someone did something bad, something really bad, but you couldn't prove it, and telling might get you in trouble, what would you do? Marcus straightened, suddenly alert. This about something at school? Just hypothetical, Tyrell mumbled. His father considered the question carefully. The right thing and the easy thing rarely go hand in hand, Tyrell. But at the end of the day, we have to live with our choices. He fixed his son with a steady gaze. Truth has a way of demanding to be heard. Question is, are you brave enough to be its voice? As Tyrell finally drifted to sleep that night, his father's words echoed in his mind. Outside their apartment window, a distant siren wailed, a reminder of the dangerous world beyond. In his dream, the briefcase in the forest slowly opened, revealing its secrets to the night. Richard Harrington adjusts his Italian silk tie as he stares out from his penthouse office window. 40 stories below, the city sprawls like a circuit board of light and shadow, all of it seemingly at his command. On his mahogany desk, the morning's newspaper features his photograph beneath the headline, "Harrington donates $5 million to Children's Hospital." His manicured fingers trace the edge of the paper, a smile that doesn't reach his eyes forming on his face. "Mr. Harrington, the board members are ready for you," his assistant says from the doorway, her voice carefully neutral. "Tell them 5 minutes," he replies without turning. Only when she leaves does he allow his composed expression to falter. He pulls out his phone, checking for the third time that no new messages have arrived from James Gaines. The boardroom falls silent as Harrington enters. 8 men and women in expensive suits straighten their postures almost imperceptibly. He's mastered the art of making people unconsciously defer to him. A slight delay before speaking, maintaining eye contact a moment too long, the subtle power. Plays that separate those who lead from those who follow. "Ladies and gentlemen," he begins, voice smooth as polished marble, "I understand there are concerns about the quarterly projections." An older board member clears his throat. "Richard, the numbers from James's department don't add up. We've been trying to reach him for 3 days. James is taking personal time," Harrington replies evenly. "A family emergency. I've stepped in to handle his responsibilities temporarily." "Without notifying the board?" a woman asks, her tone carefully measured. Harrington's smile tightens. "The situation developed suddenly. I didn't want to burden everyone with administrative details. The tension in the room is palpable, but no one presses further." Harrington Enterprises represents old money, Boston aristocracy stretching back generations. The Harrington name adorns university buildings, hospital wings, and museum galleries across the city. Questioning Richard too aggressively isn't just challenging a CEO, it's challenging an institution. After the meeting, Harrington retreats to his private office and locks the door. From his safe, he retrieves a small red ledger, the only physical record of the transactions James had discovered. $28 million siphoned from the company's pension fund over 3 years, moved through shell companies and offshore accounts. The money hadn't been for personal gain, but to cover massive losses from high-risk investments that would have sunk the company and the Harrington legacy with it. James Gaines had been Harrington's friend since college, his right hand man as they built the company together. But James had always been too idealistic, too bound by notions of ethics and responsibility. When he discovered the discrepancies and confronted Harrington 3 nights ago, the argument had escalated beyond words. Harrington hadn't meant for things to go so far. The heavy crystal paperweight had been within reach when James threatened to go to the authorities. The sickening sound it made against James's temple still echoed in Harrington's nightmares. The ringing phone jolts him from his thoughts. "Sir, there's a Detective Williams asking about Mr. Gaines," his assistant says. His wife filed a missing persons report this morning. Harrington's pulse quickens, but his voice remains steady. "Schedule her for tomorrow morning. Say I'm concerned as well and want to help however I can." After hanging up, he opens his laptop and accesses the building's security system. He scrolls through footage from 3 nights ago: the parking garage, the elevators, the executive floor corridors. Everything seems clear until he notices something: the maintenance access door opening at 11:47 p.m., nearly an hour after he left with the briefcase containing James's body. He zooms in, enhancing the grainy image. A slender figure slips through. The door, a boy? The janitor's son. Harrington had noticed him before, working alongside his father despite child labor laws. He'd considered it none of his business, even admired the work ethic, but now the boy's presence takes on new significance. Had he followed Harrington that night? Had he witnessed what happened in the forest? Harrington closes the laptop, his mind calculating. The janitor, Marcus Johnson, and his son represent a complication, but not an insurmountable one. People in their position are vulnerable, easily pressured, easily discredited if necessary. He picks up his phone again. Get me everything we have on Marcus Johnson from maintenance. Employment records, background check, everything, and find out his son's name. As evening falls, Harrington stands at his window again, watching the city lights flicker on. He's protected. His family's legacy through worse crises than this. No one, certainly not a janitor and his child, will threaten what generations of Harringtons have built. Tomorrow, he'll deal with Detective Williams. Then, the Johnsons. Morning sunlight filters through the blinds of Tyrrell's bedroom as he stares at the ceiling, sleep having abandoned him hours ago. The image of Mr. Harrington tossing that briefcase replays in his mind like a horror movie he can't shut off. His father's words from last night echo. Truth has a way of demanding to be heard. School passes in a blur. During lunch, Tyrrell sits alone, pushing mashed potatoes around his tray while sketching a map of the forest on his notebook. He marks an X where he believes the briefcase landed. The rational part of his brain argues that he should forget what. He saw that it's not his problem, but something deeper. The part of him that is his mother's son won't let him walk away. When the final bell rings, instead of heading to the office building to meet his father, Tyrrell boards a different bus. 20 minutes later, he stands at the edge of the woods, the afternoon sun casting long shadows through the trees. His heart hammers against his ribs as he follows the path he'd watched Harrington take just 2 nights before. The forest feels different in daylight, less menacing, but somehow more revealing. Tyrrell carefully counts his steps, using landmarks he'd noted from his hiding spot. A fallen tree, a distinctive boulder, a clearing where the moonlight had caught Harrington's watch. When he reaches what he believes is the spot, confusion washes over him. The ground looks disturbed, not just from the impact of a thrown briefcase, but from something more. The earth has been dug up and replaced. Freshly broken twigs and flattened undergrowth suggest someone returned after that night. Harrington came back. Tyrrell's mouth goes dry. He drops to his knees, examining the area carefully. His fingers probe the loose soil, finding nothing. He's about to give up when a glint of metal catches his eye several feet away, partially hidden under a rotting log. He reaches for it. Breath catching in his throat. A security badge. The plastic is cracked and dried blood stains one corner. The photo shows a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a professional smile. The name reads, James Gaines, Chief Financial Officer. Tyrrell has seen this man before, walking through the executive floor, always stopping to acknowledge the cleaning staff with a genuine thank you, unlike most executives who look through them as if they're invisible. Mr. Gaines had once complimented Tyrrell on his math homework, saying the company could use minds like his someday. Hands shaking, Tyrrell slips the badge into his pocket. As he stands, a twig snaps somewhere behind him. He freezes, listening intently. Another sound, deliberately quiet footsteps. Someone else is in the woods. Ducking behind a thick tree trunk, Tyrrell holds his breath. Through the foliage, he glimpses a figure moving carefully through the trees, not Harrington, but a uniformed security guard from Harrington Enterprises. The man scans the ground methodically, clearly searching for something. Tyrell remains motionless until the guard moves farther. Away then slowly backs up, placing each foot carefully to avoid making noise. Once at a safe distance, he turns and runs, not stopping, until he reaches the bus stop, lungs burning and legs aching. On the bus ride home, Tyrell holds the blood-stained badge inside his jacket pocket, his finger tracing the crack in the plastic. The weight of what he's found, of what it might mean, settles over him like a heavy blanket. His father is already home when Tyrell arrives, preparing dinner in their small kitchen. "Where have you been?" Marcus asks, concern in his voice. "I waited at the office." "Sorry, Dad. Group project at the library." Tyrell lies, guilt twisting his stomach. Marcus studies his son's face. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired," Tyrell manages, avoiding his father's gaze. Later, after dinner, Tyrell sits on his bed with his laptop, the security badge hidden beneath his pillow. He types James Gaines Harrington Enterprises into the search bar. The results make his blood run cold. A local news article from yesterday, police searching for missing executive. According to the article, James Gaines hadn't been seen since leaving work 3 nights ago, the same night Tyrell witnessed Harrington in the forest. Further searching reveals more. Gaines had been with Harrington Enterprises for 15 years. He was married with 2 teenage daughters. His wife reported his disappearance when he failed to come home and didn't answer calls. Tyrell closes the laptop, his decision crystallizing. Tomorrow, he would tell his father everything. Together, they would figure out what to do. But as he tries to sleep, another thought haunts him. If Harrington could do this to his longtime business partner, what might he do to a janitor and his son who got in his way? The badge seems to pulse beneath his pillow like a terrible secret, its weight far greater than its small size would suggest. Tyrell stares into the darkness, wondering if he's already crossed a point of no return. The school's computer lab is silent except for the soft clicking of keyboards. Tyrell hunches over a monitor in the back corner, using his lunch period to dig deeper into James Gaines's disappearance. The badge burns in his pocket like a hot coal. A local business journal article catches his eye. Gaines raises concerns over Harrington pension management. Dated just 2 weeks ago, it mentions that the CFO had requested an external audit of the company's pension fund, a move the board approved despite Harrington's objections. Tyrell opens a new tab and searches for information about the pension fund. He finds mentions of it in the company's annual report, over $300 million in assets for thousands of employees' retirements. Another search leads him to a financial news site reporting rumors of liquidity problems at Harrington Enterprises. "What? Are you researching so intensely?" Tyrell jumps, quickly minimizing the browser. His English teacher, Ms. Rivera, stands beside him, her expression curious rather than suspicious. "Just a current events project," he stammers. She glances at the screen. "Financial news, not typical middle school reading." "I'm interested in business," Tyrell replies, trying to sound casual. "My dad works at Harrington Enterprises." Ms. Rivera nods. "Well, don't forget your creative writing assignment due tomorrow." She moves on to help another student. Tyrell reopens the browser, his heart still racing. He's connecting dots that form a disturbing picture. Gaines discovers financial misconduct, confronts Harrington, then disappears the same night. Tyrell sees Harrington dispose of a suspicious briefcase in the woods. The bell rings. Tyrell prints one article about Gaines and folds it into his notebook before heading to math class. Throughout the afternoon, he struggles to focus on lessons. By the time school ends, he's made his decision. He can't tell his father yet. The knowledge is too dangerous. He needs more information first. At the office building, Tyrell goes through the motions of helping his father clean, but his mind is elsewhere. He finds himself studying the executive floor with new eyes, noting the location of security cameras, examining the nameplate on James Gaines's office door. The space beyond the frosted glass is dark. "You've been quiet today," Marcus comments as they clean the men's restroom. "Everything okay at school?" "Yeah, just thinking about that science project coming up," Tyrell lies. Marcus runs a mop across the tile floor. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" Guilt twists in Tyrell's stomach. "I know, Dad." Later, while Marcus restocks paper towels in the lobby bathrooms, Tyrell slips down the executive hallway. He tries Gaines's office door, locked. Through the glass, he can see a neat desk, family photos, nothing obviously disturbed. As he turns to leave, he notices a small office across the hall with the door slightly ajar. Record storage. Heart pounding, Tyrell glances around before sliding inside. The room contains filing cabinets and a computer workstation. On a whim, he wiggles the mouse. The screen lights up, already logged in, someone left in a hurry. A spreadsheet is open, showing columns of numbers and account codes. Tyrell doesn't understand all of it, but he recognizes the header, Pension Fund Allocations. He scans the document, searching for anything unusual. Near the bottom, several large transfers are highlighted in red with a note, Unverified Allocations, JG to investigate. The sound of voices approaching sends Tyrell ducking behind a filing cabinet. Through the partially open door, he sees Harrington walking with 2 men in suits. "I want his office cleared by tomorrow," Harrington is saying. The press release will state he's taken a leave of absence for personal reasons. "And if the police keep asking questions," one man asks, "let them ask. Without a body, they have nothing." Harrington's voice is cold. "Now, about those records." He was reviewing. Their voices fade as they continue down the hall. Tyrell waits, barely breathing, before slipping out and rushing back to find his father. Meanwhile, in his office, Richard Harrington reviews security footage again. The camera outside the service entrance shows Tyrell returning alone yesterday afternoon, hours before his father's shift, and leaving visibly agitated 40 minutes later. Harrington pauses the footage, zooming in on the boy's face. "Sir?" His security chief stands in the doorway. "We searched the area again, no sign of the badge." Harrington's jaw tightens. "Keep looking, and I want everything we have on the Johnson boy. School records, social media, everything. Sir, he's just a kid who might have seen something he shouldn't have." Harrington turns back to the screen, studying Tyrell's frozen image. "Find out where he went yesterday, and put someone on him, discreetly." That night, as Marcus and Tyrell walk to the bus stop, neither notices the black sedan parked half a block away or the man inside, photographing them with a telephoto lens. At home, Tyrell lies awake, the security badge hidden inside his pillowcase. Outside, a car engine starts, then fades into the distance. He considers telling his father everything in the morning, but fears putting him in danger. The weight of his knowledge presses down on him like a physical force, squeezing the air from his lungs. What Tyrell doesn't realize is that remaining silent might be the most dangerous choice of all. Richard Harrington leans forward in his leather chair, eyes fixed on the security monitor. The footage from yesterday plays in slow motion. Tyrell Johnson moves through the executive floor after hours, pausing at Gaines's office before slipping into the records room. 8 minutes later, he emerges and hurries away, just before Harrington himself appears in the hallway with the legal team. "He was there," Harrington murmurs, tapping the screen. "Right before we discussed the situation." His security chief shifts uncomfortably. "The audio wouldn't carry that far into the storage room, sir." "Are you willing to bet your career on that?" Harrington's voice is dangerously soft. He stands, straightening his tie. "I want Marcus Johnson in my office this afternoon. Tell him it's about a promotion opportunity." Marcus stares at his supervisor in disbelief. "Mr. Harrington wants to see me personally?" The supervisor nods. 3 o'clock sharp? Wear your good uniform." He hesitates. "Look, Marcus, this is unusual. Watch yourself up there." As Marcus heads to the maintenance locker room to change, his phone buzzes with a text from Tyrell. "Staying late at school for math club. See you at work." Marcus smiles, pride momentarily overriding his anxiety about the meeting. Despite everything, their financial struggles, the loss of his wife, the grinding reality of being a black janitor raising a son alone, Tyrell continues to excel. The boy's brilliance is his ticket to a better life than Marcus has known. In the school library, Tyrell isn't at math club. Instead, he's researching pension fund fraud, on one of the computers. The articles he finds describe similar cases: executives siphoning money from employee retirement accounts through fake investments or shell companies, often discovered only after funds collapse or whistleblowers come forward. A notification pops him up on his phone, a news alert he set up for James Gaines. His stomach drops as he reads, "Police scale back search for missing executive." The article mentions that while the investigation continues, authorities are exploring the possibility that Gaines left voluntarily, citing personal and professional pressures. Tyrell knows different. The blood-stained badge in his backpack tells another story entirely. At precisely 3 o'clock, Marcus Johnson sits rigidly in a chair across from Richard Harrington. The contrast between them couldn't be starker. Harrington in his tailored suit, Marcus in his pressed but worn uniform, both men the same age, but separated by worlds of privilege and power. Marcus, Harrington begins with practiced warmth. "I've noticed your dedication. 15 years with the company, always punctual, thorough in your work. Thank you, sir." "I understand your son sometimes helps you after school," Harrington continues, watching Marcus's face carefully. "Tyrell, isn't it? I've heard he's quite bright." Marcus straightens. "Yes, sir, he's a good boy." "Must be difficult raising him alone since your wife passed." Harrington's voice drips with manufactured sympathy. "Children need guidance, structure. It's easy for them to get distracted, to wander into situations beyond their understanding." The shift in tone isn't lost on Marcus. Tyrell stays focused on his schoolwork. "I'm sure he does," Harrington smiles thinly. "Which brings me to why I called you here. We have an opening for a facilities manager at our Phoenix office. Better pay, company housing included. It would be a fresh start for you both." Marcus blinks in surprise. "Phoenix, Arizona? The position starts next week. We'd need your answer by tomorrow." Harrington slides a folder across the desk. "All the details are inside. A significant opportunity, Marcus. I'd hate to see you miss it." The implied threat hangs in the air between them. Marcus takes the folder with steady hands, even as his mind races. "I'll consider it carefully, Mr. Harrington. Thank you for the opportunity." Tyrell arrives at the office building as the workday ends, a stream of employees flowing toward the exits. He slips through the service entrance, heading for the maintenance office to meet his father. Rounding a corner, he nearly collides with someone, Richard Harrington himself, flanked by his security chief. Tyrell freezes, certain his guilt is written across his face. Harrington pauses, studying the boy with cold, calculating eyes. "You must be Tyrell Johnson." Tyrell swallows hard. "Yes, sir? Late for school activities?" There's something knowing in Harrington's tone that sends ice through Tyrell's veins. "Math club, sir." Harrington's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Admirable. Education is the key to advancement, after all." He glances at his security chief. "Johnson's son, the one I mentioned." The security chief nods slightly, his expression unreadable. "I just had a very productive meeting with your father," Harrington continues. "A bright future ahead for both of you, I think, if the right choices are made." Tyrell forces himself to maintain eye contact despite the terror building inside him. "My dad always makes good choices, sir. I'm counting on that." Harrington adjusts his gold cufflinks. "Good evening, Tyrell. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again soon." As they walk away, Tyrell remains rooted to the spot, his heart hammering. Harrington knows. Somehow he knows Tyrell saw something. And now he's trying to get rid of them by sending them to Phoenix. In the maintenance office, Marcus sits with the promotion folder open before him, his expression troubled. When Tyrell enters, his father looks up with eyes that hold both hope and suspicion. "Mr. Harrington offered me a job in Phoenix," Marcus says without preamble. "Better pay, company housing. We'd leave next week." The words land like body blows. Phoenix, next week. Far away from whatever evidence might remain in that forest. "Dad, we can't—" Tyrell stops himself, the words catching in his throat. "Can't what, Tyrell?" Marcus's gaze sharpens. "What aren't?" "You telling me?" The moment stretches between them, taut with tension. Outside the small office window, the sky darkens as storm clouds gather. matching the shadow that has fallen over their lives. The auditorium hums with restless energy as middle schoolers shift in their seats during career day. Terrell sits in the back row, distracted. 2 days have passed since Harrington's job offer to his father, and the tension at home is palpable. Marcus suspects something is wrong but hasn't pressed further after Tyrell claimed he just didn't want to leave his school and friends. Next, we have Officer Elaine Williams from the police department, the principal announces, a black woman in Suisse. Her mid-30s approaches the podium. Unlike the previous speakers in business attire, Officer Williams wears her uniform with quiet authority. Her hair is pulled back in a neat bun, and though she's not smiling, there's something reassuring in her steady gaze as it sweeps across the auditorium. "I'm not here to give you the standard speech about how exciting police work is," she begins, her voice clear and direct. "The truth is, it's often tedious. It's paperwork and procedures. But it's also about justice, about standing between those who have power and those who don't." Tyrell straightens in his seat, suddenly attentive. "In my 12 years on the force, I've learned that the most important skill isn't shooting or fighting," Officer Williams continues. "It's listening, hearing what people aren't saying as much as what they are." She describes cases where small details, things most would overlook, broke investigations wide open. She talks about white-collar crime, how it often victimizes the most vulnerable. Throughout her presentation, her eyes occasionally meet Tyrell's, as if she's speaking directly to him. When the Q&A session begins, students ask predictable questions about guns and car chases. Officer Williams answers patiently but redirects the conversation toward ethics and responsibility. When the bell rings, students file out noisily, but Tyrell hangs back, watching as Officer Williams gathers her materials. "You have a question?" she asks, noticing him hovering nearby. "Hypothetically," Tyrell begins, his voice nearly a whisper, "if someone saw something they weren't supposed to see, something bad, but they don't have proof, just suspicions, what should they do?" Officer Williams sets down her folder, giving him her full attention. "That depends on what they saw and who was involved. What if it was someone powerful? Someone who could hurt them or their family if they spoke up?" Her expression shifts subtly. This doesn't sound hypothetical. Tyrell looks away. "Just curious." Officer Williams studies him for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Tyrell." "Tyrell. Johnson." Recognition flickers in her eyes. "Johnson. Is your father Marcus Johnson?" Tyrell nods, surprised. "He works at Harrington Enterprises, right? I'm actually investigating a missing persons case connected to that company." She hesitates, then pulls out a business card. "If your hypothetical person needs to talk, they can call me directly, day or night." Tyrell takes the card, his fingers trembling slightly. "The missing man, is it James Gaines?" Officer Williams's expression remains neutral, but her eyes sharpen. "Yes. Did you know him?" "Not really. I just heard about it." She nods slowly. "Tyrell, whatever you know or think you know, be careful who you talk to. Some people value their secrets more than they value doing what's right." As Tyrell turns to leave, she adds, "And tell your father I said hello. We went to high school together." That afternoon, instead of going straight to the office building, Tyrell stops at the public library. Using a computer there feels safer than researching at school or home. He searches James Gaines's name again, diving deeper into articles about the missing CFO. A financial blog mentions Gaines's reputation for ethical business practices and his recent push for transparency in the company's accounting. Another article notes that Gaines had met with SEC investigators just days before his disappearance. Information that hasn't appeared in mainstream news coverage. Tyrell's phone buzzes with a text from his father. "Where are you? Mr. Harrington, asking if you're coming today." A chill runs through him. Why would Harrington be asking about him specifically? Tyrell quickly replies that he's on his way, then shoves Officer Williams's card deep into his pocket. At the Harrington building, security seems tighter. A guard Tyrell doesn't recognize asks for his ID at the service entrance, something that's never happened before. In the maintenance office, Marcus looks worried. "Everything okay, Dad?" Tyrell asks, dropping his backpack by the supply cart. Mr. Harrington's security chief came by again, asking questions about our schedule. Marcus replies quietly. "And I need an answer about Phoenix by tomorrow morning." Tyrell's throat tightens. "Dad, I don't think we should go." "This is a big opportunity, Tyrell." "It's not right," Tyrell insists. "The timing, the rush, something feels wrong." Marcus sighs. "I know, but jobs like this don't come along for men like me very often." He places his hands on Tyrell's shoulders. "Whatever's bothering you, whatever you're not telling me, you need to trust me with it. Tonight? No more secrets." Tyrell nods reluctantly. "Tonight." As they begin their cleaning rounds, neither notices the security camera, pivoting to follow. Their movement, nor the fact that the microphone in the maintenance office had been activated remotely minutes before they entered. In his penthouse office, Richard Harrington watches the surveillance feed, lips pressed into a thin line as he listens to their conversation. Beside him, his security chief shifts uncomfortably. "Sir, the boy was at the public library, researching Gaines, and he mentioned the missing man to that police officer at his school today." Harrington's fingers drum against the mahogany desk. "Arrange for Marcus Johnson's promotion paperwork to be ready first thing tomorrow. If he declines the Phoenix position," his voice hardens, "then we move to other measures." "What about the boy?" Harrington studies Tyrell's image on the screen. "Children are impressionable. Without evidence, he's just a kid with an overactive imagination. No one would believe him over me." He picks up his phone. "But to be safe, I think it's time we had a closer look at what young Tyrell Johnson might know." Rain patters against the Johnson apartment windows as Tyrell sits at the kitchen table, James Gaines's blood-stained security badge placed between him and his father. Marcus stares at it, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "I saw Mr. Harrington throw a briefcase into the forest that night," Tyrell explains, voice barely above a whisper. "When I went back to check, I found this. The ground had been dug up, like someone came back for the briefcase but missed the badge." Marcus picks up the badge carefully, examining the dried blood. "And you believe James Gaines was in that briefcase?" His voice is steady, but Tyrell can see the slight tremor in his hands. "Mr. Gaines found something in the company finances," Tyrell continues, "something bad enough that Harrington—" He can't finish the sentence. "That's why Harrington wants us in Phoenix," Marcus says slowly, "to get us away from here, away from whatever evidence might still exist." Tyrell nods. "I think he knows I saw him that night." Marcus sets the badge down and rubs his face with both hands. "Tyrell, do you understand what you're saying? You're accusing one of the most powerful men in the city of murder." "I know what I saw, Dad. And you've been carrying this by yourself?" Marcus's voice cracks slightly. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was scared," Tyrell admits. "Scared of what might happen to us if Harrington found out." Marcus reaches across the table, taking his son's hand. "First thing tomorrow, we're going to the police with this." "I have a card," Tyrell says, pulling Officer Williams's business card from his pocket. "She came to our school today. She's investigating Mr. Gaines's disappearance." Marcus takes the card, recognition flickering across his face. "Elaine Williams, we went to high school together." A sad smile touches his lips. "Your mother used to be friends with her." A knock at the door makes them both jump. Marcus motions for Tyrell to stay seated as he moves cautiously to answer it. Through the peephole, he sees a man in a dark suit, rain dripping from his umbrella. "Mr. Johnson, I'm David Chen, Mr. Harrington's personal assistant," the man says when Marcus opens the door. "May I come in? I have some documents regarding your promotion." Marcus hesitates, then steps aside. As Chen enters, Tyrell quickly slips the badge into his pocket, his heart racing. Chen places a leather portfolio on the table. "Mr. Harrington asked me to deliver these personally and answer any questions you might have." His eyes flicker briefly. To Tyrell, then back to Marcus. "The offer has been enhanced since your meeting." Marcus opens the portfolio. Inside are employment contracts, relocation papers, and a cashier's check for $50,000 marked signing bonus. $50,000? Marcus's voice betrays his shock. Mr. Harrington values loyalty, Chen replies smoothly. The position includes full health care benefits, a company car, and a college fund for your son. He glances at Tyrell again. A bright young man like him deserves the best education, doesn't he? The implication hangs in the air. This isn't just a job offer, it's a bribe for their silence. And if I decline? Marcus asks quietly. Chen's smile doesn't waver. Mr. Harrington would be disappointed, of course. He's invested personally in this opportunity for you. In fact, he mentioned that if the position doesn't interest you, there might be restructuring in the maintenance department soon. Budget cuts, you understand. The threat is clear. Take the money and leave, or lose everything. I'll need time to consider it, Marcus says carefully. Of course. The car will pick you up at 9 tomorrow morning for your answer. Chen heads for the door, then pauses. One more thing. Mr. Harrington asked me to return something that belongs to your son. From his pocket, Chen produces a small notebook. You left this in the library computer area today, young man. The librarian found Mr. Harrington's name written inside and contacted his office. Tyrell's research notes. His blood runs cold as he takes the notebook, now acutely aware of how much Harrington knows about his activities. After Chen leaves, Marcus locks the door and leans against it, his expression grim. He's watching us closely. What are we going to do, Dad? Marcus looks at the portfolio on the table, then at his son. Call Officer Williams. Now. Tyrell dials with shaking fingers, but the call goes to voicemail. He leaves a message asking her to call back urgently. Pack a bag, Marcus says, pulling out their old suitcase. Just essentials. We're not staying here tonight. Where are we going? Your Aunt Claire's place. Harrington doesn't know about her. Marcus grabs his own phone. I'm calling in sick tomorrow. We'll go to the police station first thing in the morning. As they quickly gather their things, headlights sweep across the living room window. A black sedan has parked across the street. Through the rain-streaked glass, Tyrell can make out the silhouette of someone watching their apartment. Dad, he whispers, pointing. Marcus peers through the blinds, then steps back. We'll use the back exit. Stay close to me. Thunder rumbles outside as they slip out the rear door of their building, rain soaking them instantly. Marcus holds Tyrell's hand tightly as they navigate through alleyways, avoiding main streets. Remember what your mother always said, Marcus whispers as they hurry through the downpour. The truth doesn't stay buried forever. Tyrell clutches the blood-stained badge. In his pocket, no matter how deep someone digs the hole, Aunt Claire's apartment is small but warm, nestled in a part of the city far from the gleaming Harrington Tower. The one-bedroom unit smells of cinnamon and coffee. Claire Johnson, Marcus's younger sister, hugs Tyrell tightly while casting, worried, glances at her brother. You two look like you've seen ghosts, she says, handing them towels for their rain-soaked clothes. What's going on, Marcus? The less you know right now, the better, Marcus replies, checking his phone again for any response from Officer Williams. We just need a place to stay tonight. Claire doesn't press further. She makes up the couch for Marcus and brings a sleeping bag for Tyrell, who will sleep on the living room floor. Despite his exhaustion, sleep eludes Tyrell. Each passing car makes him tense, wondering if Harrington's men have found them. Dad, he whispers in the darkness, what if the badge isn't enough? It proves something happened to Mr. Gaines, but not that Mr. Harrington did it. Marcus shifts on the couch. We tell the police everything we know. The rest is their job. But Harrington has money, connections. He could make this disappear. Not all cops can be bought, Tyrell. We have to believe that. Tyrell thinks of Officer Williams, of the directness in her eyes. There might be more evidence at the office, in the records room, or Mr. Gaines's computer. We're not going back there, Marcus says firmly. It's too dangerous. But I'm not the only one who might know something, Tyrell persists. Sarah from IT is always there when her mom works weekends. She knows all the computer systems. Tyrell, her mom has access to everything, Dad, including the executive's emails. Sarah showed me once when we were playing around. Marcus is silent for a long moment. Get some sleep. We're going to the police in the morning, evidence or no evidence. But as sunlight begins filtering through the blinds, Marcus's phone finally buzzes with a text from Officer Williams. Can't talk freely. Department compromised. Meet me at Westside Diner at 8. Come alone. The Westside Diner sits beneath the elevated train tracks, its neon sign flickering in the morning light. Marcus enters alone, having left Tyrell with Claire despite his protests. Officer Williams sits in a corner booth out of uniform, a cup of coffee cooling before her. Been a long time, Marcus, she says as he slides into the seat opposite her. Wish it were under better circumstances. He places Gaines's blood-stained badge on the table between them. Williams examines it without touching it. Where did you get this? My son found it in the woods. He saw Harrington dumping something there the night Gaines disappeared. Her expression remains neutral, but her eyes sharpen. Your son witnessed this? Marcus nods. Harrington's been trying to buy our silence. Offered me a job in Phoenix, signing bonus. The works. Harrington has friends in the department, Williams says quietly. High up. When I started asking questions about Gaines, my captain told me to back off, called it a sensitive case. She leans forward. But I've been looking into Harrington Enterprises anyway. There are discrepancies in the pension fund. Millions missing. Gaines must have discovered it, Marcus realizes. I need more than a bloody badge, Marcus. I need documents, records, something that ties Harrington directly to the missing money and to Gaines. My son mentioned something about emails, access through the IT department. Williams considers this too risky for you to go back there. Harrington's watching you both. So, what do? I have a friend in the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. If we can get him enough to start an official investigation, Harrington's friends in the local PD can't interfere. She takes back the badge, wrapping it carefully. Keep your son close. Don't go home. Don't go to work. I'll be in touch. We can't just hide at Aunt Claire's forever, Tyrell argues when Marcus returns. And we can't wait for Officer Williams to figure this out on her own. It's not our job to gather evidence, Tyrell. But I know where to look, Tyrell insists. Sarah said the IT department does system maintenance every Saturday morning. The building's practically empty then. Absolutely not, Marcus says firmly. But that night, as Marcus helps Claire prepare dinner, Tyrell slips away to the bathroom and texts Sarah. Need your help. Important. Can you meet tomorrow morning at your mom's office? Her reply comes quickly. Sure. Mom's doing updates from 9:12. What's up? Tell you tomorrow. Don't tell anyone I'm coming. Saturday morning, Marcus wakes to find a note from Tyrell. Gone to get proof. Back soon. I promise. By the time he calls Sarah's number from Claire's phone, Tyrell is already approaching the Harrington building, baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. The weekend security guard barely glances at him as he signs in as Sarah Miller's friend on the visitor log. Sarah meets him at the IT department's glass doors, curiosity and concern mingling on her face. My mom's in the server room, she whispers as she lets him in. What's going on? Your dad called looking for you. He sounded freaked out. I need to check something on the executive email server, Tyrell explains. It's important, Sarah. Like, really important. She hesitates, then nods. Mom's account has admin access. Her computer's unlocked, but we have to be quick. At her mother's workstation, Tyrell navigates to the email server. Can we search for specific terms across all accounts? Yeah, use the enterprise search function. But what are we looking for? Tyrell types James Gaines plus pension fund plus discrepancy. Cartes. Search returns dozens of results, mostly routine communications, but one email thread between Gaines and Harrington from 3 days before the disappearance catches his attention. The subject line reads, Urgent, fund irregularities, private discussion needed. There, Tyrell whispers, clicking on it, this is it. The emails detail Gaines's discovery of unauthorized transfers from the pension fund to offshore accounts. The final email from Gaines states, I've prepared a full report with documentation. We need to inform the board and authorities immediately. This is criminal activity, Richard. I won't be part of a cover-up. There was no reply from Harrington. Sarah, can you print these and search for something called Project Clean Sweep, too? As the printer hums to life, footsteps echo in the hallway outside. Sarah freezes. Someone's coming. We need to... The door opens, and Richard Harrington himself stands in the doorway, his security chief beside him. His cold eyes fix on Tyrell, then slide to the printing emails. Well, he says softly, isn't this interesting? Time seems to freeze as Harrington's gaze locks with Tyrell's. Sarah stands paralyzed beside him, her face drained of color. The printer continues its mechanical rhythm, spitting out evidence that could destroy an empire. Mr. Harrington, Sarah's mother emerges from the server room, stopping abruptly when she sees the tableau before her. I wasn't expecting you today. Evidently not, Harrington replies, his voice deceptively calm. His eyes never leave Tyrell. It seems we have a security breach, Mrs. Miller. Unauthorized access to confidential communications. I gave him permission. Sir, Sarah says quickly, her voice trembling, for a school project. It's my fault. Harrington's security chief moves toward the printer, but Tyrell is faster. He grabs the printed pages and backs away, his heart hammering against his ribs. Those are company property, the security chief says, hand moving to his holstered taser. James Gaines is missing because of what's on these pages, Tyrell says, surprising himself with his steady voice. You killed him because he found out. What you were doing with the pension fund, Mrs. Miller gasps. Sarah grabs her mother's arm, eyes wide with fear. That's quite an accusation from a child, Harrington says, his expression hardening, especially one who's been trespassing and stealing company documents. He turns to Mrs. Miller. Call the police. This boy broke into our secure systems. Don't, Tyrell pleads to Mrs. Miller. He's trying to cover up what he did. Mr. Gaines found out he was stealing millions from the pension fund, from your retirement, from everyone's. Harrington's mask of composure slips for just a moment, revealing the rage beneath. That's enough. Henderson, take those documents and escort the boy to my office. The security chief steps forward, but Mrs. Miller moves between them and Tyrell. Wait, is this true, Mr. Harrington? About the pension fund? Of course not. Harrington snaps. The boy is delusional. His father was just terminated for theft. Like father, like son. My dad never stole anything, Tyrell says fiercely. You're framing him because of what I saw in the forest. A flicker of uncertainty crosses Mrs. Miller's face. She looks at the papers in Tyrell's hand. What exactly do those say? That Mr. Gaines found millions missing from the pension fund, Tyrell explains quickly. He told Harrington he was going to report it. 3 days later, he disappeared. I saw Mr. Harrington dump a briefcase in the forest that night. There was blood on it. The tension in the room is electric. Harrington's cold mask has fully slipped now, replaced by barely contained fury. You're making a terrible mistake, Hal says to Mrs. Miller, believing the fantasies of a child over me. I built this company. I signed your paychecks. Then you won't mind if we wait for the police together, Mrs. Miller replies, pulling out her cell phone. I'm sure this can all be cleared up. Harrington's eyes dart to the security cameras in the corners of the room, then to his security chief. Some unspoken communication passes between them. Of course, Harrington says, his composure returning like a mask sliding back into place. Henderson, please ensure our young visitor doesn't leave before the authorities arrive. The security chief nods, positioning himself by the door. Harrington turns to leave, then pauses. I should inform Marcus about his son's predicament. Where is he these days? Not at home, I understand. The implied threat sends ice through Tyrell's veins. He clutches the papers tighter. Don't tell him anything, he whispers to Mrs. Miller, once Harrington has left. Please, my dad's in danger. Mrs. Miller studies him for a long moment, then turns to her daughter. Sarah, take Tyrell to the small conference room and stay with him. Don't open the door for anyone but me. She hands Sarah her access card. Lock it from inside. What are you going to do? Sarah asks. My job, Mrs. Miller says grimly. System. Security includes protecting the integrity of our data. If someone's been tampering with financial records, I need to secure the evidence before it disappears. Marcus paces in Claire's apartment, his phone pressed to his ear. Pick up, Elaine. Please pick up. When Officer Williams finally answers, his words tumble out in a rush. Tyrell went to the Harrington building. He's trying to get evidence from their computers. There's a pause on the line. How long ago? Almost an hour. I called the building, but security says they can't confirm if he's there. I'm on my way, Williams says. Meet me at the south entrance. Don't go in alone, Marcus. Harrington's desperate, and desperate men are dangerous. In the small conference room, Tyrell and Sarah huddle over the printed emails. This is crazy, Sarah whispers. You really think Mr. Harrington killed someone? I know what I saw, Tyrell replies, spreading out the pages. These prove the motive. Mr. Gaines found out Harrington was stealing from the pension fund and threatened to expose him. A document titled Project Clean Sweep details the systematic draining of the pension fund through a network of shell companies, all ultimately controlled by Harrington himself. According to Gaines's notes, over $28 million had been diverted over 3 years. The conference room door rattles suddenly, the handle turning. Sarah jumps. It's locked, she whispers. They can't get in without Mom's card. But then they hear a key card sliding into the electronic lock. The light turns green. The door swings open to reveal not Mrs. Miller, but Richard Harrington. Behind him, Henderson holds Mrs. Miller by the arm, her face bruised, eyes wide with fear. I'm afraid Mrs. Miller has had an unfortunate accident, Harrington says softly. She fell down the server room stairs. Didn't you, Mrs. Miller? The woman says nothing, but her terrified gaze speaks volumes. Now, Harrington continues, stepping into the room, I believe you have some company property that needs to be returned. Outside the Harrington building, Marcus paces anxiously near the south entrance. When Officer Williams arrives, she's in civilian clothes, but with her badge clipped to her belt. A stocky man with salt and pepper hair accompanies her. This is Dan Rodriguez, FBI, Williams explains quickly. Financial Crimes Division. Marcus shakes the agent's hand, desperation evident in his eyes. My son's in there. How long? Rodriguez asks. Over an hour now. I've called. Security claims they have no record of him entering. Rodriguez exchanges a glance with Williams. That's not a good sign. We need to go in, Marcus insists. We will, Williams assures him, but smart. I can't officially investigate without cause, and Rodriguez needs a warrant for access to financial records. My son is cause, Marcus says, his voice rising. I understand, Williams says, placing a calming hand on his arm. But if we go in half-cocked, Harrington's lawyers will shut us down before we can help Tyrell. Rodriguez checks his phone. My team is working on an emergency warrant based on the badge evidence and the pension fund discrepancies Williams flagged. Should have it within the hour. Tyrell doesn't have an hour, Marcus says, staring up at the gleaming tower. Williams studies the building. The weekend security staff is minimal. Most are contracted, not Harrington loyalists. If we go in quiet, non-confrontational, my maintenance badge still works, Marcus offers. Service elevator to the executive floor. Williams nods. Let's move. In the small conference room, Tyrell positions himself in front of Sarah, the incriminating documents clutched against his chest. Your father is already facing theft charges, Harrington says, his voice deceptively gentle. Breaking and entering, corporate espionage. These will only make things worse for him, for both of you. My dad didn't steal anything, Tyrell replies, struggling to keep his voice steady. And these papers prove what you did to Mr. Gaines. Harrington sighs dramatically. Henderson, please collect the company property from the boy. The security chief moves forward, but Sarah suddenly shouts, I'm recording this. She holds up her phone, and I'm live streaming to my Instagram. Everyone will see what you're doing. Henderson hesitates, looking to Harrington for direction. Harrington's expression darkens. Give me the phone, young lady. Let Mrs. Miller go, Tyrell demands. Let her take Sarah out of here. This is between us. I'm afraid it's far beyond that now, Harrington replies. He turns to Henderson. Take them all to my office. No stops, no one sees them. Mrs. Miller struggles against Henderson's grip. People know we're here. My husband knows I'm working today. A regrettable workplace accident, Harrington says coldly. Tragic, really. The server. Room stairs are quite steep. The implication hangs in the air like poison. Mrs. Miller stops struggling, her face pale with fear for her daughter. Henderson forces them toward the door, but as they reach the hallway, the elevator at the far end chimes. The doors slide open to reveal Marcus, Officer Williams, and a man none of them recognize. "Dad!" Tyrell calls out. Henderson reflexively reaches for his weapon, but Williams already has her service pistol drawn. "Police! Hands where I can see them!" For a moment, no one moves. Then Henderson slowly raises his hands, releasing Mrs. Miller. Harrington's composure never wavers. "Officer Williams, this is unexpected. We were just dealing with a security breach." Stepple. "Away from the children, Mr. Harrington," Williams orders. Marcus rushes to Tyrell, pulling him into a fierce embrace. "Are you okay?" Tyrell nods against his father's chest, the document still clutched tightly in his hand. "Richard Harrington," the unknown man says, stepping forward and displaying a badge. "I'm Special Agent Rodriguez, FBI. We have some questions about the Harrington Enterprises Pension Fund." A flicker of uncertainty crosses Harrington's face, quickly replaced by his practiced smile. "Of course, though I'd prefer to have my attorneys present for any formal questioning." "That's your right," Rodriguez agrees. "But first, we need to address the situation at hand. Officer Williams has informed me of allegations regarding James Gaines's disappearance." Harrington's eyes narrow. "Baseless accusations from a disgruntled employee and his delinquent son. Then you won't mind explaining these," Tyrell says, stepping forward to hand the documents to Agent Rodriguez. "Emails between you and Mr. Gaines about missing pension money. And this," he pulls the blood-stained security badge from his pocket, "which I found in the forest where Mr. Harrington dumped a briefcase the night Mr. Gaines disappeared." Rodriguez examines the badge, then passes it to Williams, who carefully places it in an evidence bag. "This is absurd," Harrington scoffs. "A child's fantasy. That badge could have been planted. Those documents taken out of context." "We'll let forensics determine that," Rodriguez replies evenly. "In the meantime, I'd like everyone to come down to the Federal Building to make statements." "I'm not going anywhere without my attorneys," Harrington insists. "That's your choice," Williams says. "But right now, we have witnesses reporting that your head of security assaulted Mrs. Miller and threatened minors." Mrs. Miller steps forward, her split lip and bruised cheek now clearly visible. "He pushed me down the stairs when I refused to give him my access card." Henderson's stoic expression falters. He looks to Harrington, who subtly shakes his head. Misses. "Miller had an unfortunate fall," Henderson states flatly. "I was helping her." Sarah holds up her phone. "I recorded everything after they came into the conference room. Mr. Harrington threatened us." Harrington's carefully constructed facade begins to crack. "This is a setup. You can't possibly believe—" "We'll sort it all out downtown," Rodriguez interrupts. "Officer Williams, please escort Mr. Henderson to your vehicle. I'll accompany Mr. Harrington." As Williams handcuffs Henderson, Rodriguez turns to Marcus. "Get the children out of here. Take them to the Federal Building. Agents will meet you there for statements." Harrington watches with cold fury as his empire begins to crumble. As Rodriguez leads him toward the elevator, he hisses at Tyrell. "This isn't over. You have no idea what you've done." Marcus puts a protective arm around his son's shoulders. "It's over, Harrington. The truth doesn't stay buried forever." The elevator doors close on Harrington's face, his mask of civility finally completely shattered, revealing the monster beneath. The Federal Building's interview room is stark and impersonal, its white walls a blank canvas for Tyrell's racing thoughts. He's been here for hours, telling his story repeatedly to different agents. They ask the same questions in different ways, probing for inconsistencies that don't exist. Through the glass partition, he can see his father in another room, gesturing as he speaks to Agent Rodriguez. In a third room, barely visible from his angle, Richard Harrington sits with two sharp-suited attorneys, his posture rigid but unbroken. A female agent with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor, slides a cup of hot chocolate across the table. To Tyrell. "Just a few more questions, then you can go home." "Is my dad in trouble?" Tyrell asks, wrapping his fingers around the warm cup. "No," she assures him. "We're just being thorough." "What about Mr. Harrington? Is he going to jail?" The agent's expression reveals nothing. That depends on what evidence we find. He killed Mr. Gaines, Tyrell insists. I saw him with the briefcase. I found the badge. We're taking your statement very seriously, she replies carefully, but criminal cases require solid evidence. The badge is being processed by our lab. We've obtained warrants for Harrington's financial records and emails. Tyrell sips his hot chocolate, the sweetness at odds with the bitter reality of adult justice. He's going to get away with it, isn't he? Because he's rich and powerful. The agent leans forward. Not if I can help it. But these things take time, Tyrell. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn. By evening, they're finally released. Marcus, Tyrell, and Officer Williams stand on the federal building steps as the city lights begin to flicker on around them. What happens now? Marcus asks, his arm around Tyrell's shoulders. Harrington's been released on his own recognizance, Williams explains, frustration evident in her voice. His attorneys are already spinning this as corporate espionage and defamation. What about the badge? The emails? Marcus demands. Evidence is being processed. Rodriguez's team is following the money trail. But Harrington's already filing motions to suppress evidence, claiming illegal searches, she sighs. His legal team works fast. So, he just walks free? After what he did to Mr. Gaines. After threatening my son? Williams places a hand on Marcus's arm. This isn't over, far from it. But you need to be prepared. Harrington will fight dirty. He has resources, connections. We have the truth, Marcus says firmly. Sometimes that's not enough, Williams replies. Not immediately, anyway. She hands Marcus a business card. This is a motel outside the city. Rooms paid for 2 weeks. Under my cousin's name. Go there tonight. Stay out of sight. We can't just hide. You can and you will, Williams interrupts. At least until we secure the crime scene in the forest. Rodriguez is getting warrants now. Tyrell looks up at his father. She's right, Dad. Harrington will come after us. Marcus reluctantly takes the card. What about our things? Our apartment? I'll have officers escort you there to pack essentials. Tomorrow, not tonight. As they part ways, Williams pulls Tyrell aside. You did a brave thing today. Your mother would be proud. Tyrell blinks in surprise. You knew my mom well? A sad smile crosses Williams's face. We were close once. She had the same courage you showed today. In his penthouse office, Richard Harrington stares out at the city skyline, a tumbler of scotch in his hand. Behind him, a team of attorneys and advisors speak in urgent tones. The financial records are our biggest vulnerability, one lawyer says. If the FBI follows the offshore trail, they won't, Harrington interrupts, his voice cold. Those transactions are buried under layers of shell companies across 3 continents. The physical evidence is more concerning, another advisor notes. The badge, the potential crime scene in the forest, handle it, Harrington orders without turning. The room falls silent. Then his chief counsel clears his throat. Richard, there are lines even we won't cross. Harrington finally turns, his eyes glacial. Then find someone who will. I didn't build this empire to watch it crumble because of a janitor and his nosy. Brat! The attorneys exchange uncomfortable glances. In the meantime, Harrington continues, I want everything we have on Marcus Johnson, every detail of his life, financial records, criminal background, medical history, and I want Officer Williams. Investigated. Find me leverage. The boy is the primary witness, one advisor points out. Without his testimony, no one touches the boy, Harrington snaps, surprising everyone. Focus on discrediting him. School records, discipline issues, anything to paint him as troubled and unreliable. His phone buzzes. The caller ID shows the police commissioner's name. Harrington smiles thinly. Leave me, all of you. As the room clears, he answers the call. Commissioner, thank you for returning my call. Yes, a most unfortunate situation. Baseless accusations from a disgruntled employee, but I'm more concerned about one of your officers, Elaine Williams. She seems to be pursuing a personal vendetta. At the modest motel on the outskirts of the city, Tyrell sits on the edge of the bed, watching his father pace the worn carpet. We should have gone straight to the police that first night, Marcus says, more to himself than to Tyrell. As soon as you saw him with that briefcase. Would they have believed me? Tyrell asks quietly. Without the badge? Without the emails? Marcus stops pacing. Maybe not. But now Harrington has had time to cover his tracks. He sits beside his son. I'm sorry I got you into this mess. You didn't, Tyrell protests. I followed Mr. Harrington on my own. I found the badge. I went back to the office today. To protect me? Marcus says softly. All of it to protect me. They sit in silence for a moment, the gravity of their situation settling over them. Dad, Tyrell says finally, if Harrington can make evidence disappear and pressure the police. How do we stop him? Marcus puts his arm around his son's shoulders. The truth is, like water, Tyrell, it finds every crack, every weakness, until it breaks through. We just need to keep the pressure on. Outside their room, unseen in the darkness, a black sedan pulls into the parking lot. The forest is eerily quiet as the FBI evidence response team methodically searches the area where Tyrell found the badge. Agent Rodriguez supervises from the perimeter, his expression grim as he speaks into his phone. We've got disturbed soil. Consistent with recent digging, but no sign of the briefcase or, he pauses, glancing at Tyrell and Marcus, who wait nearby, or any human remains. Tyrell's heart sinks. He points to the exact spot where he found the badge. It was right. There, under that fallen log. The ground had been dug up and refilled. A technician in white coveralls approaches Rodriguez. Sir, we've got blood traces on the surrounding vegetation, consistent with spatter. And there's this. She holds up a small evidence bag containing what appears to be a broken cufflink with the initials J.G. Rodriguez nods grimly. Keep searching. Expand the perimeter. If something was buried here and moved, there might be drag marks, tire tracks. Officer Williams arrives, her face tense. We need to talk, she tells Rodriguez, leading him away from Tyrell and Marcus. Their conversation is heated but hushed, with Williams gesturing emphatically. What's happening? Tyrell asks his father. Marcus shakes his head. Not sure, but it doesn't look good. Williams returns alone, her expression carefully neutral. The commissioner pulled jurisdiction on the Gaines disappearance. He's assigned it to major crimes, effectively removing me from the case. Harrington, Marcus says bitterly. He's using his connections. Most likely, Williams agrees. But the financial investigation remains with the FBI. Rodriguez is good, the best. If anyone can follow the money trail, it's him. But without a body, Marcus begins. We're not giving up, Williams says firmly. The blood evidence and cufflink give us probable cause to keep investigating. But you two need to stay out of sight. Harrington's attorneys have filed harassment claims against you both. Marcus clenches his fists. Harassment? My son witnessed a murder. I know, Williams places a calming hand on his arm. But the legal system can be weaponized by people with resources. They're trying to discredit you, paint Tyrell as an unstable kid with an imagination. Tyrell feels a wave of helplessness. So we just hide while Harrington walks free? For now, Williams answers. But I have an idea. There's someone you should meet. The law offices of Chen & Associates occupy a modest suite in a downtown building far removed from the gleaming glass towers of firms that represent Harrington Enterprises. Lisa Chen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, listens intently as Tyrell recounts everything he witnessed. Your son's testimony is compelling, she tells Marcus when Tyrell finishes. But without the briefcase or a body, it's his word against Harrington's. So there's nothing we can do? Marcus asks, deflated. I didn't say that. Chen smiles shrewdly. I've been waiting years for someone to take on Richard Harrington. His company destroyed my father's pension after acquiring his employer 15 years ago. Hundreds of workers lost everything. She pulls out a thick file. I've been collecting evidence of Harrington's financial misconduct for years. Former employees, whistleblowers, suspicious acquisitions, nothing strong enough to build. A case alone, but combined with what you've brought forward. You think it's enough? Williams asks. Maybe, Chen replies. But we need more. Specifically, we need to know where that briefcase is now. If Harrington moved it after Tyrell found the badge, he must have taken it somewhere secure. His house? Marcus suggests. too obvious, Chen shakes her head, and too easily subject to search warrant if the investigation gains traction. Tyrell, who has been quiet, suddenly sits up straighter. What about his private safe? Everyone turns to him. When I overheard him in the hallway with his lawyers, he mentioned something about securing those items in his private safe. Not the one in his office. Everyone knows about that one. He said something about the vault at the lake house. Lake house? Williams echoes. Chen nods slowly. Harrington has a family compound on Lake Champlain. Very private, heavily secured. It's been in his family for generations. Could he have moved evidence there? Rodriguez asks from the doorway, having just arrived. It's possible, Chen acknowledges, but we'd never get a warrant based on an overheard conversation. Rodriguez drops a file on the desk. Maybe we can. Financial records just came in. Harrington made an unscheduled trip to the lake house 3 days after Gaines disappeared. Chartered helicopter. No flight plan filed. Against regulations. That's still thin for a warrant, Chen cautions. Not when combined with this. Rodriguez opens the file to reveal photographs. Satellite imagery of the property from that day shows unusual activity at the boathouse, and this, he points to a barely discernible figure on a dock, appears to be someone dumping something into the deepest part of the lake. The briefcase? Tyrell asks, leaning forward. Maybe, Rodriguez says, but again, not clear enough for a search warrant of the main house. Williams studies the photos. We don't need the main house. We need the boathouse and permission to drag that section of the lake. Chen nods thoughtfully. A more limited warrant might be approved, especially with the financial evidence mounting. The judge might... She's interrupted by Williams's phone. The officer answers, her expression darkening as she listens. When? She demands. Was anyone hurt? After another moment she hangs up, turning to Marcus and Tyrell. Someone broke into your apartment last night, ransacked the place. Your neighbor reported it this morning. Harrington, Marcus says grimly. Looking for the badge or anything else Tyrell might have found. Most likely, Williams agrees, but it works in our favor. It shows consciousness of guilt, desperation. Chen is already reaching for her phone. I'll draft the warrant request immediately. With the break-in, financial records, satellite imagery, and blood evidence from the forest, we might just have enough. Rodriguez nods. I'll coordinate with the local field office near Lake Champlain. If the judge approves, we move immediately. As the adults spring into action, Tyrell sits quietly, trying to process everything. The badge that felt so heavy in his pocket has now set in motion, events far larger than he imagined. For the first time since that night in the forest, he feels a flicker of hope that the truth might actually prevail. But across the city, in his penthouse office, Richard Harrington ends a phone call, a cold smile playing at his lips. They're heading for the lake house, he tells his security chief, exactly as planned. Rain pelts the windows of Lisa Chen's office as the team huddles around a makeshift evidence board. Photos, financial documents, and timeline notes cover nearly an entire wall. At the center is a satellite image of Harrington's lake house, a sprawling estate nestled among dense trees with a private dock extending into deep water. The judge granted a limited warrant, Rodriguez explains, tapping the image. We can search the boathouse and drag that section of the lake, but not the main residence. It's a start, Chen says, though her expression suggests it's not enough. Williams studies the satellite photos. Something feels off. The timing is too convenient. Harrington's too smart to dispose of evidence at his own property. Unless he thought no one would ever have cause to look there, Marcus counters. Tyrell, who has been quietly examining the evidence board, points to a notation. What's this? Project Clean Sweep, Phase 3? Rodriguez nods appreciatively at the boy's attention to detail. That's from the financial records. Large cash transfers to offshore accounts coded under that project name. We believe it's the pension fund money. But what are the phases? Tyrell persists. What's Phase 3? Chen rifles through documents until she finds a spreadsheet. Phase 1 appears to be the initial diversion of funds. Phase 2, conversion to untraceable assets. But Phase 3, she frowns. It's scheduled for completion. Tomorrow, significant funds being moved from temporary holdings to permanent ones. Williams and Rodriguez exchange alarmed looks. He's finalizing the money laundering, Rodriguez says. Once those funds move, they'll be virtually impossible to recover. Can't you freeze the accounts? Marcus asks. We've frozen what we can identify, Rodriguez explains, but we're missing accounts. Without the complete trail, which might be in that briefcase, Williams finishes, or in Harrington's private safe. Tyrell has been unusually quiet, his mind racing. What if we made Harrington lead us to the evidence himself? All eyes turn to him. What do you mean? Chen asks. What if you leak information that someone knows where the original briefcase is hidden? Make him think his secret's about to be exposed. Wouldn't he check to make sure his evidence is secure? Rodriguez considers this. A calculated risk. If he suspects a trap? He's already suspicious, Williams points out, but he's also arrogant. He believes he's untouchable. And desperate, Chen adds. Phase 3 is tomorrow. He can't afford any loose ends. Rodriguez nods slowly. We could put out that we have a confidential informant claiming knowledge of physical evidence connecting Harrington to Gaines's disappearance through channels he monitors, Williams suggests, internal police communications. It could work, Chen admits. But how do we track him without alerting him? Tyrell speaks up again. When I was helping my dad clean, I found maintenance passages that run behind the executive offices. You can see and hear everything without being noticed. If Mr. Harrington checks his private safe, absolutely not, Marcus interrupts. You are not going back into that building. Your father's right, Williams says firmly. It's too dangerous. But no one else knows those passages like I do, Tyrell argues, and Harrington would recognize any of you. A tense silence fills the room. Rodriguez finally breaks it. What if we could monitor remotely? Surveillance equipment in the passages? The building security is top-notch, Williams cautions. They scan for devices regularly. Marcus stands, his decision made. I know those maintenance areas too. I'll do it. Dad, no. It's not up for discussion, Tyrell. Marcus's tone leaves no room for argument. I can access those areas without raising suspicion. Former employee checking for personal items left behind, something like that. Rodriguez and Williams exchange glances. It could work, Williams acknowledges reluctantly. But you'd need a wire, and as I said, they scan for those. Not if it's well hidden and only activated once he's in position, Rodriguez suggests. Low emission, short range. Chen interrupts. Before we go further, everyone needs to understand the risks. If Harrington realizes it's a trap, he could become dangerous, and legally anything obtained this way would be inadmissible without proper warrants. We're not looking for courtroom evidence, Rodriguez clarifies. Just leads to where the real evidence is hidden. The planning continues into the night. A carefully worded, confidential police memo is drafted detailing an anonymous tip about evidence hidden in Harrington's office. Williams will ensure it reaches channels Harrington monitors. Marcus will enter the building the following morning, ostensibly to collect personal belongings, with a concealed listening device. He'll position himself in the maintenance passage behind Harrington's office and wait as the others finalize details. Tyrell pulls his father aside. Dad, I should be the one doing this. It's my fault we're in this mess. Marcus places his hands on his son's shoulders. None of this is your fault, Tyrell. You saw something wrong and had the courage to speak up. His voice softens. Your mother would be so proud of you. I know I am. But what if something happens to you? Nothing will happen. I'll be in and out in an hour, tops. Marcus smiles reassuringly. Besides, someone needs to stay with Officer Williams and keep an eye on things from the command center. Tyrell nods reluctantly, unconvinced but unwilling to argue further. The next morning, Marcus approaches the Harrington building, dressed in his maintenance uniform. The weight of the tiny transmitter hidden in his watch feels heavier than it should. In his ear, Williams's voice is calm and steady. Remember, you're just there to clean out your locker. Act normal. Once you're in position, activate the transmitter and wait. If Harrington doesn't take the bait within 2 hours, we abort. Marcus acknowledges with a subtle nod, knowing the team is watching from a van parked across the street. As he passes Through security, his old badge still functioning as promised, he can't shake the feeling that he's walking into something far more dangerous than any of them anticipated. In the executive floor's maintenance access corridor, narrow and dimly lit, Marcus positions himself behind the panel that opens into the wall of Harrington's office. From here, he can see through the ventilation grate a perfect view of Harrington's desk, the bookcase behind it, and the seemingly ordinary wall panel that Tyrrell had identified as concealing a hidden safe. Marcus activates the transmitter, whispers, "I'm in position," and settles in to wait, unaware that 3 floors below, Richard Harrington is already reviewing security footage of his arrival with cold, calculating eyes. In the surveillance van across from the Harrington building, Tyrrell watches multiple monitors displaying security camera feeds that Rodriguez's team has managed to hack into. Officer Williams sits beside him, tension evident in her posture as they wait for Harrington to take the bait. "Anything?" Rodriguez asks, returning from a call with his field team at the lake house. Williams shakes her head. Harrington's been in meetings all morning. No reaction to the leaked memo yet. Tyrrell's eyes remain fixed on the screen, showing the executive floor corridor. "Something's wrong. He should have responded by now." The radio crackles with Marcus's whispered voice. "Still in position. No movement at Harrington's office." Williams checks her watch. "Almost 2 hours. We may need to abort." "Wait." Tyrrell points to one of the monitors. There he is. Richard Harrington appears on screen, walking briskly through the lobby with his security chief beside him. His expression is unreadable as they enter the executive elevator. "Dad," Tyrrell says into the radio, "Harrington's heading up now." "Copy that," comes Marcus's hushed reply. They watch as Harrington exits the elevator on the executive floor. But instead of turning toward his office, he continues down a different corridor. Where's he going? Williams wonders aloud. Tyrrell studies. The building schematics spread out on the table. That leads to the executive conference room, but also, his finger traces the path, to the maintenance access point where Dad is hiding. Alarm flashes across Williams' face. It's a trap. He knows. She grabs the radio. "Marcus, get out now. Harrington's coming directly to your position." No response. "Dad!" Tyrrell shouts into the radio. "Dad, can you hear me?" Static is the only reply. "They're jamming our signal," Rodriguez realizes, already moving toward the van door. "I'm going in." "Not alone," Williams says, checking her service weapon. "Tyrrell, stay here. Lock the doors. Don't open for anyone but us." Before Tyrrell can protest, they're gone, moving quickly across the street toward the building. On the monitor, Harrington and his security chief disappear from camera view, entering the corridor leading to Marcus's hiding spot. Tyrrell stares at the screens, helpless, watching the minutes tick by with no sign of his father, Harrington, or the officers. Then movement on a lobby camera catches his eye. Marcus being escorted roughly by 2 security guards, with Harrington following behind. They're heading for the parking garage. Without thinking, Tyrrell bolts from the van, ignoring Williams's instructions to stay put. He races across the street, narrowly avoiding traffic, and slips into the building through a service entrance his father had shown him. Instead of following directly to the garage, he takes a maintenance elevator to the parking level, emerging just as the group approaches Harrington's waiting town car. From his hiding place behind a concrete pillar, Tyrrell can hear Harrington's cold voice. "You really thought you could outsmart me, Johnson? I've known about your little investigation from the beginning." Marcus, his hands zip-tied behind him, stands defiant. "Then you know it's over. The FBI has your financial records. They know about Project Clean Sweep. They have fragments, nothing more," Harrington dismisses. "By tonight, those funds will be beyond anyone's reach. As for the other matter, well, accidents happen, especially to those who trespass where they don't belong." The implied threat sends a chill through Tyrrell. "Where are Williams and Rodriguez?" "My son knows everything," Marcus says, his voice steady despite his predicament. "You can't silence us." "Both," Harrington laughs, the sound utterly devoid of humor. "Your son is a child with an overactive imagination and no evidence. Who would believe him over me?" "I would," comes a new voice. Officer Williams emerges from behind a nearby vehicle, her weapon drawn. "Let him go, Harrington." The security guards reach for their weapons, but Harrington raises a hand to stop them. "Officer Williams, this is a private matter. This man was caught trespassing in secure areas of my building. With his employee badge that you conveniently never deactivated," Williams counters. "Almost like you wanted him to come back." Harrington's expression darkens. "You're outside your jurisdiction, officer, and as I understand it, you've been removed from the Gaines investigation." "True," she acknowledges, "but Agent Rodriguez hasn't." She nods toward the garage entrance where Rodriguez now stands with 2 other FBI agents, and he has some questions about those offshore accounts you've been moving money to. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Harrington's face, but it quickly hardens into cold determination. "Accusations without evidence. My attorneys will have a field day with this harassment." "We have evidence," Rodriguez replies, approaching slowly. "The judge just approved our expanded search warrant for the lake house. My team found your hidden safe and the contents of a certain briefcase you thought you'd disposed of. It's a bluff. Tyrell knows the lake house search hasn't yielded results. Yet, but Harrington doesn't know that. His composure slips just slightly. Impossible. There's nothing to find." "Then you won't mind accompanying us to the federal building to clear this up," Rodriguez suggests, his tone making it clear it's not really a request. What happens next unfolds in seconds. Harrington's security chief makes a sudden move, drawing his weapon. Williams shouts a warning. Marcus, seeing an opportunity in the distraction, drives his shoulder into Harrington, knocking him against the car. Shouts echo through the garage as FBI agents rush forward. In the chaos, Harrington breaks free and runs toward a service exit. Without thinking, Tyrell steps from his hiding place directly into Harrington's path. Their eyes lock Harrington's. Wide with surprise, Tyrell's burning with determination. "You!" Harrington spits, recognition turning to rage. "You started all this!" Tyrell stands his ground. "You killed Mr. Gaines. I saw you that night." Something snaps in Harrington. He lunges forward, grabbing Tyrell by the shirt. "You saw nothing. Nothing. I saw everything," Tyrell counters, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "And now everyone else will too." Harrington raises his hand to strike the boy, but freezes at the sound of a dozen weapons being drawn and aimed at him. "Let the boy go," Rodriguez commands. "Now." Slowly, Harrington releases his grip on Tyrell's shirt. As he does, Tyrell pulls out his phone, which has been recording the entire confrontation. "I saw you dump that briefcase," Tyrell says clearly, "and now I have you admitting it." The color drains from Harrington's face as agents move in to handcuff him. Marcus rushes to Tyrell, enveloping him in a fierce embrace despite his still-bound hands. "That was incredibly dangerous," Marcus whispers, his voice shaking with fear and relief, "and incredibly brave." Over his father's shoulder, Tyrell watches as Harrington is led away, the powerful man's empire crumbling around him with each step. The federal building's interrogation room feels smaller by the hour as Richard Harrington sits rigidly across from Agent Rodriguez and a Justice Department prosecutor. His attorneys flank him like expensive bookends, their designer suits and grim expressions a stark contrast to the sterile environment. "The recording is inadmissible," the lead attorney argues. "The boy had no authorization to make it, and my client's words are being taken out of context." Rodriguez remains unperturbed. "We have more than the recording, counselor. The search at Lake Champlain has been productive." For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Harrington's composed features. "What exactly do you claim to have?" "Found? You know exactly what we found," Rodriguez replies evenly. "In the boathouse safe, behind the false wall panel." It's still a bluff. The search continues with no significant discoveries yet, but Rodriguez watches carefully as Harrington exchanges glances with his attorneys. "My client exercises his right to remain silent from this point forward," the lead attorney announces. Rodriguez gathers his files unhurriedly. "That's his prerogative. But you should know we've also received authorization to drain a portion of the lake where satellite imagery showed unusual activity the day after Gaines disappeared." As he stands to leave, Rodriguez adds casually, "Oh, and the forensics team found blood matching Gaines's type in your private office bathroom drain trap. Remarkable how difficult those traces are to eliminate completely." He closes the door on Harrington's ashen face, then walks briskly to the observation room where Williams waits with Marcus and Terrell. "Did he break?" Williams asks. Rodriguez shakes his head. "Not yet, but he's rattled. The lake house search was a dead end. Nothing in the boathouse safe. And we don't actually have blood evidence from his office bathroom." "So more lies," Marcus says bitterly. "Strategic pressure," Rodriguez corrects. "Sometimes you have to make a suspect believe you know more than you do." Terrell, who has been unusually quiet, speaks up. "You said the boathouse safe. But what about the main house?" "No warrant for that yet," Rodriguez explains. "The judge limited our search to the boathouse and lake. But the recording from the parking garage," Terrell persists. "Harrington practically admitted his involvement. Isn't that enough for a broader warrant?" Williams and Rodriguez exchange looks. "The recording is problematic from an evidentiary standpoint," Williams explains gently. "You made it without authorization, and defense attorneys will argue it was entrapment. So he's going to get away with it," Terrell says flatly. "Even after everything." "No one said that," Rodriguez counters. "We're still building our case. The financial crimes alone won't bring justice for Mr. Gaines," Terrell interrupts, "or for all the people whose retirement money he stole." An uncomfortable silence falls over the room. Then Marcus places a hand on his son's shoulder. "Terrell's right," he says quietly. "Financial crimes charges aren't enough. Not for what Harrington did." Before anyone can respond, Rodriguez's phone buzzes. His expression shifts as he listens to the caller. "They found something," he announces, ending the call. "At the lake house. Not in the boathouse, but on the property line. A recently disturbed area in the woods." "Gaines?" Williams asks softly. Rodriguez shakes his head. "Not human remains. A metal case buried about 3 feet down. They're bringing it in now." 2 hours later, they gather in a secure evidence room as forensic technicians carefully open the mud-encrusted metal case recovered from Harrington's property. Inside, protected by waterproof packaging, are documents, a laptop, and a blood-stained tie with the initials JG embroidered on the label. "This isn't the original briefcase from the forest," Rodriguez observes. "This is where Harrington moved the contents afterward." The technicians photograph everything before gently removing each item. The documents include detailed records of the pension fund embezzlement, account numbers, transfer dates, shell company structures. The laptop, though password protected, contains similar files according to the preliminary examination by cyber forensics. Most damning of all is a handwritten ledger with Harrington's distinctive signature on multiple pages, authorizing the fraudulent transfers. And on the final page, a note in different handwriting, "I can't be part of this. Going to the authorities tomorrow. JG." Gaines's writing, Williams confirms, comparing it to known samples. Marcus looks at the evidence spread across the table. Will this be enough? Without Gaines's body, it establishes motive clearly, Rodriguez explains. Combined with the blood evidence from the forest, the badge Terrell found, and the timeline of Gaines's disappearance, yes, I believe it's enough for murder charges. But we still need to find Gaines, Williams adds quietly. For his family, if nothing else. Rodriguez nods. The lake search continues, and now that we have this evidence, we'll get warrants for every property Harrington owns. A knock at the door interrupts them. An agent enters, his expression urgent. "Sir, Harrington's attorneys are requesting an immediate meeting. They say their client wants to make a statement." Rodriguez exchanges a meaningful look with Williams. "It appears our strategic pressure worked after all." In a conference room upstairs, Harrington sits alone with Rodriguez and the prosecutor. His attorneys wait outside at his insistence. "I want full immunity on all financial matters," Harrington states, his voice hollow but still commanding. "In exchange, I'll tell you where to find James Gaines." "That's not how this works," the prosecutor replies coldly. "We already have the financial evidence, multiple felony counts. The best you can hope for is consideration at sentencing if you cooperate fully now." Harrington's carefully maintained facade begins to crack. "You don't understand. It was an accident. We argued. He fell, hit his head on my desk corner." His voice drops to a whisper. I panicked. "Where is he, Harrington?" Rodriguez asks quietly. "The North Cove." Weighted down in about 30 feet of water, Harrington's shoulders slump, decades of arrogance draining. Away in an instant. "I never meant for any of this to happen." As Harrington continues his confession, Marcus and Tyrell wait in a separate room with Williams. "It's over," she tells them gently. Harrington's confessing. Tyrell nods, emotion tightening his throat. "Mr. Gaines's family stuck. Will they know he tried to do the right thing?" "They will," Williams assures him. "His final act was trying to protect thousands of people's futures. That's a powerful legacy." Marcus puts his arm around his son's shoulders. "You did what many adults wouldn't have had the courage to do, Tyrell. You stood up for the truth, no matter the cost." Outside the window, twilight settles over the city. In the distance, the Harrington building stands as a gleaming monument to wealth and power. But its namesake's empire is crumbling, brought down by the determination of a janitor's son who refused to look away from injustice. 3 months later, the courtroom sits hushed as Tyrell Johnson approaches the witness stand. At 12 years old, he appears small against the polished wood and imposing architecture, but his shoulders are squared, his steps deliberate. As he raises his right hand to be sworn in, his eyes briefly meet his father's in the gallery. Marcus nods encouragement, pride evident in his gaze. Despite Harrington's confession, his high-priced legal team has orchestrated a defense claiming temporary insanity, coercion during interrogation, and questioning the admissibility of key evidence. The trial has become a media sensation, with daily coverage contrasting the powerful businessman's fall with the unlikely role of a janitor's son in exposing the truth. "Please state your name for the record," the prosecutor begins. "Tyrell Marcus." Johnson. "Thank you, Tyrell. I know testifying today isn't easy, but your testimony is important. Can you tell the court what you were doing at the Harrington Enterprises building on the night of October 12th? Tyrell takes a deep breath. "I was helping my father with his cleaning job. I'd been doing that for about 6 months. And what did you see that night?" Tyrell recounts the events clearly, staying late, seeing Harrington acting suspiciously, following him to the forest, witnessing him dispose of the briefcase. His voice remains steady as he describes finding the blood-stained badge days later, the threatening job offer to his father, and the subsequent investigation. Harrington sits at the defense table, his once commanding presence diminished in the standard suit he's been permitted for court appearances. His eyes never leave Tyrell during the testimony, his expression unreadable. When the defense attorney rises for cross-examination, his approach is immediately aggressive, designed to intimidate. "Mr. Johnson, isn't it true that you were trespassing on private property when you allegedly saw my client in the forest?" "I was following him because a simple yes or no will suffice," the attorney interrupts. "Yes, but... And isn't it true that your father was about to be terminated for workplace violations, including allowing an underage child to perform custodial work?" Marcus stiffens in his seat as Tyrell's eyes widen. "Objection," the prosecutor interjects. "Counsel is testifying and the question contains unsupported allegations." "Sustained," the judge rules. "Counsel, confine your questions to relevant matters." The defense attorney adjusts his approach but continues pressing. "You claim you found a security badge days after the alleged incident. Why didn't you immediately report this to authorities?" "I was scared," Tyrell admits honestly. "Mr. Harrington is powerful. I was worried about what might happen to my dad and me." "So you concealed potential evidence in a criminal investigation?" "I didn't know what to do. I'm 12. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. The defense attorney's expression hardens. "Is it possible that what you saw in the forest that night was simply a businessman disposing of ordinary trash? That your imagination, fueled by true crime shows and an antipathy towards the wealthy, constructed a narrative that wasn't real?" Tyrell sits straighter. "No, sir, I know what I saw. The briefcase made a metal sound when it landed. There was something dark leaking from it." He pauses, meeting Harrington's gaze directly. And Mr. Harrington's hands were shaking when he walked back to his car. People's hands shake like that when they've done something terrible. The attorney attempts to continue his attack, questioning Tyrell's school records, suggesting his home life has made him unreliable, even implying financial motivation behind his testimony. But with each question, Tyrell's responses become more composed, his recall of details impeccable. You expect this court to believe that a 12-year-old janitor's son just happened to uncover a sophisticated financial crime and murder that he eluded professional investigators, the attorney asks, with barely concealed disdain. No, sir, Tyrell replies evenly. I just saw something wrong and told the truth about it. The investigators did the rest. A hush falls over the courtroom. Even the defense attorney seems momentarily at a loss. Sometimes, Tyrell continues into the silence, people don't see what's happening right in front of them because they don't expect to see it. Or maybe they don't want to. But that doesn't make it not true. The simplicity and wisdom of his statement hangs in the air. In the gallery, Mrs. Gaines, the widow of the murdered CFO, dabs at her eyes. Beside her, Sarah Miller and her mother watch intently, their testimony scheduled for later in the trial. After several more questions that fail to shake Tyrell's account, the defense attorney returns to his seat. The prosecutor has a brief redirect. Then Tyrell is excused from the stand. As he walks back to his seat, Tyrell passes the defense table. Harrington, breaking his stoic demeanor for the first time, whispers something only Tyrell can hear. You should have taken the Phoenix offer. Tyrell pauses, then responds quietly, My dad taught me that running from the truth never works. It always catches up eventually. Outside the courtroom, reporters cluster around Lisa Chen, who has taken on Marcus and Tyrell's representation pro bono. The defense is attempting to discredit a child who demonstrated remarkable courage, she tells the cameras. They want to make this about class warfare, a wealthy businessman versus a janitor's family. But this case is about something simpler, the abuse of power and the consequences when that abuse is exposed. As Chen speaks, Rodriguez confers with his team in a corner. The recovery operation at Lake Champlain had confirmed Harrington's confession, finding James Gaines's remains exactly where he'd indicated. Forensic evidence matched the scenario of a heated argument turned deadly, followed by a panicked cover-up that escalated into financial crimes to hide the initial act. That evening, in their modest apartment, now filled with supportive cards and letters from across the country, Marcus prepares dinner while Tyrell tackles his homework. You were amazing today, Marcus says, setting a plate of spaghetti before his son. Your mother would have been so proud. Tyrell looks up from his textbook. Do you think Mr. Harrington will go to prison after your testimony? I don't see how. He could avoid it. Marcus sits across from him. But whatever happens, you did the right thing. That's what matters. Tyrell nods, pushing his food around thoughtfully. Dad, what's going to happen to all those people's retirement money? Marcus smiles sadly. Chen says the FBI has recovered about 60% so far. The rest, well, that's why the civil suit is important. Outside their window, the city continues its rhythms, indifferent to the drama that has unfolded within it. But in courtrooms and newsrooms, boardrooms and living rooms, the story of Tyrell Johnson, the janitor's son who brought down a titan, has become a powerful reminder that justice can come from the most unexpected places. The courtroom stands as the jury files back in after 3 days of deliberation. Tyrell sits beside his father in the front row of the gallery, both of them in their Sunday best. Behind them, the rows are filled with former Harrington Enterprises, employees, members of James Gaines's family, and reporters scribbling furiously in notepads. Richard Harrington rises at the defense table, his posture still proud despite the circumstances. The past months have aged him visibly, his hair grayer, lines deeper around his eyes. His gaze briefly meets Tyrell's before turning to face the jury. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asks. The forewoman, a retired school teacher, stands. We have, Your Honor. The clerk takes the verdict form, delivers it to the judge who reviews it with an unreadable expression, then returns it to the forewoman. On the count of first-degree murder in the death of James Gaines, how do you find? We find the defendant, Richard Harrington, guilty. A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. Mrs. Gaines covers her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. On the count of embezzlement of pension funds, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of obstruction of justice, how do you find? Guilty. As the remaining verdicts are read, all guilty, Terrell watches Harrington's shoulders gradually slump, the facade of invincibility finally crumbling completely. When the judge sets sentencing for the following month and remands Harrington to custody, the marshals step forward to escort him out. As he passes the gallery, Harrington pauses near Terrell. For a moment it seems he might speak, but instead he simply nods, an almost imperceptible acknowledgement, before being led away. Outside the courthouse, reporters surround them, shouting questions. Officer Williams and Agent Rodriguez create a protective barrier as Lisa Chen makes a brief statement. Today, justice was served not just for James Gaines, but for all those whose life savings were jeopardized by corporate greed. This case reminds us that no one is above the law, no matter their wealth or position. As cameras flash, Terrell notices Mrs. Gaines standing alone at the edge of the crowd. He moves toward her, drawn by something he can't quite name. "Mrs. Gaines?" he says hesitantly. She turns, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. "You must be Tyrell." She takes his hands in hers. "I wanted to thank you. The police told me what you did, how brave you were." Terrell shakes his head. "I just happened to be there." "No," she says firmly. "You chose to speak up when many others would have looked away. James always believed one person with courage could make a difference." She smiles. "Sadly, he would have liked you very much." 6 months later, Terrell sits in the newly renovated break room of what was once Harrington Enterprises, now restructured and renamed Phoenix Holdings after the bankruptcy proceedings. Marcus, dressed in a manager's shirt with an ID badge identifying him as facilities director, stands at a podium before a small gathering of employees. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," Marcus begins. "When the new ownership asked me to head the facilities department, my first thought was how we could give back to the community that supported us through the difficult transition." He gestures to a wall where photographs of James Gaines and other former employees have been mounted. The James Gaines Memorial Scholarship will provide educational opportunities for the children of company employees, with preference given to those pursuing studies in business ethics and corporate responsibility. Applause fills the room as Sarah Miller's mother, now the company's IT director, unveils a plaque listing the first scholarship recipients. At the top of the list, Terrell Johnson. Later, as they walk through the executive floor, once forbidden territory, now transformed into a more open, transparent workspace, Officer Williams joins them. Recently promoted to detective, she carries a small gift bag. "For you," she tells Terrell, handing him the bag. "A little congratulations on the scholarship." Inside is a framed photograph of his mother, much younger, standing beside Williams in police academy uniforms. "She would have been so proud of the man you're becoming," Williams says softly. "We were best friends once, before life took us in different directions. She had the same sense of justice you do." Terrell traces his mother's smile in the photograph. "Dad says she's the one who taught him that the truth always finds a way out." "That sounds like her," Williams agrees. "Listen, I'm starting a youth mentorship program at the precinct. We could use someone with your perspective." "Really?" Terrell's face brightens. "I'd like that." As they continue their tour, Rodriguez appears in the lobby, briefcase in hand. "Just finalizing the last of the asset recovery paperwork," he explains. 78% of the pension funds recovered now, better than we hoped." "What happens to Harrington's personal fortune?" Marcus asks. "Most will go to restitution," Rodriguez answers. "The lake house is being sold to create a victims' compensation fund." They pause at the windows overlooking the city. So much has changed in less than a year. The Harrington name has been removed from the building facade. Inside, new policies promoting transparency and ethical governance have been implemented, and for the Johnsons, life has transformed in ways they never imagined. "Do you ever regret it?" Rodriguez asks Tyrell quietly. "Getting involved? It would have been easier to just look away that night." Tyrell considers the question, thinking of all that's happened, the threats, the fear, the long court proceedings, but also the justice for James Gaines, the recovered retirement funds, his father's new position, his own scholarship. "No," he says finally. "Dad always says doing the right thing isn't supposed to be easy. That's what makes it matter." As afternoon sun streams through the windows, casting long shadows across the lobby, Tyrell glances at his mother's photograph once more. In her smile, he finds the same quiet strength he's discovered within himself, the courage to stand against injustice regardless of the cost. Outside, the city continues its eternal rhythm. Inside the building, once ruled by fear and secrecy, a new era has begun. And for Tyrell Johnson, once just the janitor's kid, the future stretches before him, bright with possibility, shaped by the knowledge that one person's courage can indeed change everything. "Ready to go home, son?" Marcus asks, placing a hand on Tyrell's shoulder. Tyrell nods, taking one last look around the transformed space. "Yeah, Dad, I'm ready." Together, they walk toward the exit, father and son no longer invisible to the world around them, but seen, truly seen, for the heroes they've become.